day one. We're doing the 10 habits of pro goalies, and we're doing the 10 habits that really help them and help set them apart, but also some of those habits are going to be ones that get them into a little bit of trouble. I figured I would start today with mobility. So in a second, we're going to head down to the lab and I'm going to take you through some mobility exercises. But I think now, and even 3 years ago, this wasn't the case, but I think goalies are taking a more consistent approach to their mobility training. On the downside of it, they're not taking it seriously enough, or they just aren't, they're still just doing stretches and going through it. They're not making it active enough with like some of the techniques that we're going to do in just a minute. Doing some of those pails and rails, those cars, and really generating that tension. They're still just kind of going through the stretches. So as we go through this circuit today, and I've kind of mapped out what I want to do with you, I want you to, I'm just pulling it up here again so I can, so I want you to think about when you're doing that self-myofascial release, really doing it to sort of scour the muscle, find those trigger points, work on that tissue. The shoulder cars and the hip cars, if you don't finish your repetitions of those and are like, whew, that was tough, you're not doing it right. So it's not going to be easy for anybody. Like, I can generate tension in my arm like this, or I can generate just as much tension as I possibly can. And I can do that whether I'm holding a 30-pound dumbbell or whether I'm just consciously tensing my muscles. So that's the idea. That's how we generate tension in those end ranges of motion. That's how we earn control in those ranges of motion, which is key to expanding the mobility that we can use on the ice. We need to teach our brain. Our brain is what limits it, more so than just the length of the muscle. Just pulling on a muscle doesn't really help us on the ice. T-spine rotation, because it's an area you ignore, and almost all the pro goalies I've ever met sort of the first time, they're like, I never worked on that. And then we go tall, half kneeling, groin, pails, and rails. It's getting in that functional position, earning our strength at length, because those groin injuries happen when we're in a lengthened position and we don't have any control. So earning our strength at length. And then I throw in one at the very end that is one that same thing, like pro goalies, it's not even on their radar. They're like, whoa, that's crazy. I've never done that before. So let's see how you do with it, and you'll be able to see how it really translates onto the ice. Okay, without further ado, I gotta change my shorts. We're gonna head down to the lab and let me walk you through all of these, and then I'll be back again tomorrow with another installment. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we're going over the 10 habits of pro goalies, the ones that both help them and the ones that kind of hinder them, so that you won't make those same mistakes. All right, here we go, gang. So we're kicking this off. There's so much stuff that we can work on, even away from the gym, away from hockey. So we're going to use this to our advantage. We're going to do a little it's going to be about a 5-minute mobility workout. We're going to start with a bit of self-myofascial release. I might have lied. It might be more like 7 minutes. I'm using the vibrating bivy ball, but you can use a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, whatever you want. So we're going to start. Remember, this is just like a little quick 5-minute or 10-minute thing you can do. We're going to start on your hip flexor. So that's sort of right here in the front of your hip joint. So we'll put the ball there. We'll get on that. And we'll roll kind of along the length of that. And we'll do that for 30 seconds on this side, and then we'll switch, and we'll go 30 seconds on this side. From there, we're gonna go to your upper glute. So a lot of you do your glutes, but you kind of just do sort of the middle part. You just sit right on that middle part. What I wanna get is this upper part here, almost where your glutes tie into the top of your pelvis, or into your low back. So we're gonna lean back on that, and then we're gonna roll from kind of our bum crack out towards our hip. That's gonna be the angle we take, and we'll get that upper portion, and we'll come back down. If we find a little tender spot or a little trigger point, we're just gonna stop on that, and we're gonna sit there and see if we can get it to kind of melt away. And then we'll keep, so think of foam rolling almost, or self-myofascial release as like scouring the muscle to find any trigger points and then addressing each one of those. The next one on my list is your TFL. This is kind of a tricky one to find, but if you find there's a bony prominence on the outside of your hip, and if you lay your hand across your hip and sort of rotate, you feel it come in and out of prominence. It almost feels like a little golf ball. So we'll put our finger right on that bony prominence. We'll come forward about an inch and up about an inch, and we find a little, it's not like soft, like mushy, but a little place where we can, it's not bone, it's soft, we can kind of indent it a little bit, and that's where we're going to lie on here. So usually if you're on the right spot, with the lacrosse ball in particular, you're like, yeah, you know it. So we're going to hold that for about 30 seconds again on each side. We're not really going to roll this one. We might kind of change our position a bit just to see if we can really find, a trigger point, but otherwise we'll just kind of chill out there. Now we'll come up into a half kneeling position, and you can do this standing if you want as well. I do it half kneeling because the ceiling's low and I'll hit the ceiling. But we're going to do a shoulder cars, so controlled articular rotation. You have to be very disciplined to do this type. This is a FRC technique. You have to be disciplined because you can just do like shoulder circle and be like, yeah, that's okay, there, I did it. Or you can actually get the benefit from it. So we're going to start with our palm facing forward like that. And we're going to come up sort of across our body. We're trying to find every inch of that range of motion at our shoulder. So we're going to come across our body so that our upper arm kind of sweeps right past our nose, our arms right next to our ear, pointing straight up. About now, I'm going to have to start externally rotating. See how my elbow stays straight? I'm not cheating. I'm going to start externally rotating my arm. Otherwise, you'll just get stuck. You won't be able to go. So I'll go as far as I can. Now I'm externally rotating. I'm generating tension in my muscles. I'm reaching back as far as I can. Like I'm turning a corkscrew, turning my palm down. I'm continuing to internally rotate, but I'm trying to keep my body as stable as possible so that I come back here, and now my palm is sort of facing forward, but I'm not dumping my shoulder, so I'm staying here. Then I'm going to come back again the other way, and again here, I'm reaching back. Now I have to start to unscrew my shoulder, generating tension, getting as high as I can, reaching with that shoulder, coming right past my ear, across in front of my face, and down again. So that's shoulder cars. From there, we're going to go to hip cars. So we'll stand up. You can hold on for a little bit of balance if you do this. It's just not meant to be a balance exercise. So, don't be wiggling all over the place because, again, it takes a lot of discipline to do it well. If you did that shoulder cars and you're like, I don't know why she's making those faces, super easy, you are doing it wrong. So the idea is to generate your own tension and to get every, inch of that range of motion. So when we do our hip cars, we're going to start here. We're going to externally rotate at our hip. That's what's bringing my foot in as far as I can. Then I'm going to bring that knee up as high as as very high as I can. Now I'm bringing it out to the side as far as I can, trying to stay square in my pelvis. From here, I'm rotating. I'm trying not to let this knee drop down. I'm coming into internal rotation. Feel the muscles in my back tightening. From here, I'm coming around, reaching back behind me as far as I can, trying to stay stable in my torso. Finally coming back right in, knees swooping together. Now I'm going to go back the other way, reaching back as far as I can. Now trying to pull out to the side. Now as high as I can. And of course somebody phoned me on the phone and cut off the connection. But you get the idea. So we're coming back around all the way and then back into that hip external rotation and down, and you do that on the other side as well. The next one we're going to work on is T-spine rotation. So thoracic spine rotation. I'm going to sit back in my hips here. So I want to sit right back because that kind of locks in my low back so that I'm not really twisting through there, because I want to work the mobility in this part between my shoulder blades. I'm going to bring my hand to my ear, and I'm just going to touch elbow to elbow and then rotate up, keeping my face up, not tucking my chin down. And I'll just breathe in as I rotate up, breathe out as I come back down. And I'll do about 4 of those each way, keeping this elbow nice and straight. From there, I'm going to do another FRC technique, which is a pails and rails technique. We're going to stay in our tall, sort of half-kneeling groin position like this. So we'll stay up tall. I feel a good stretch here. I'm not as far as I could go, but I feel a good stretch, and I'm staying up in my hips. I'm not sitting back in my hips at all. I'm going to start off by holding this for 60 seconds, just holding that stretch. Then what I'm going to do is start building tension, pushing my foot down into the floor, and I'm building that tension up to like a maximum tension. Now, yeah, if you dislocate your shoulder all the time, or you've had groin strains all the time, or get hip pain, leave these out. You know, I'm talking about if you're playing at a fairly high level and your body's in perfect working order. Even then, kind of gradually build that tension. But if building it to maximum, I'm pushing my foot into the floor, turning on my adductors, my groins. After the 30 seconds, now I'm going to use the muscles on the outsides of my hips to try and pull apart. So like I'm trying to pull myself down deeper into the splits, and I'm building that tension as well for 30 seconds. When I finish that, then I'm not going to come out of it at all. I'm just going to relax and hold that stretch for 30 seconds. Then I'm going to repeat that on the other side because I have 2 sides. And then we'll get to the last exercise of this circuit that you can use actually every single day if you want to. It's going to be single knee balancing, because I think it's one of the biggest missing ingredients, and putting it in your mobility workout is a great place for it. So half kneeling position, nice and tall in your torso, and then you're just picking up that front foot, trying to stay nice and balanced. Ideally, not using your hands, ideally keeping your hands on your hips, but if you need to use them to get started, that's totally fine. Let's go for 30 seconds on each side. So there's a full mobility workout you can do that actually is going to have benefit. Notice there isn't really any sort of like, oh, we're going to static stretch your hamstrings. You know, that it's all stuff that's actually going to help translate onto the ice. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think maybe we'll do some strength exercise, some body weight strength exercises that'll help you out. We're in this together. I got your back. Don't you worry. I'll see you tomorrow. One day better, baby.